Fine peak. Thanks. I will show you.
Yes, you will. Don't miss the music premiere family plan. Okay. Let's look at this. This is the news. Look at Putin, dude. What happened when you were blocked on Twitter? Nothing. Nothing.
Встречу российско-американскую, что там, может быть, будет какая-то декларация. В первой части вашей речи вы стали на такой опасный путь. Вы как будто бы защищали тех, кто вошел в Капитолий, а в социальных сетях это могут воспринять как их поддержку и заблокировать во всех социальных сетях. Ну, наверное, не вас, сайт Кремлин.ру.
Значит, во-первых, я сразу же сказал, что не считаю, что это хорошо. Вы, видимо, невнимательно слушали. Первое. Во-вторых, я не даю оценки.
It's true. There is a truth to that. When you block someone, you may not be listening carefully to what they're saying. I like how he puts it. There's always a second truth to the thing that seems to whatever happened. I like it. Secondly, I'm not assessing the event itself.
Самому
Talking
событию.
about what followed.
Я говорю о том, что за этим последовало. А в-третьих, плевать я хотел на то, что меня где-то кто-то заблокирует. Понимаете? Для меня важнее другое. Доверие российского народа в том качестве, в котором я сейчас нахожусь.
Господин канцлер, а вы можете объяснить, пожалуйста?
Если по-честному, я этого не знаю.
А российские спецслужбы участвовали в этой операции?
Ну нет, конечно. Значит, я видел там заявление руководства НАТО по поводу того, что, наверное, Россия принимала участие. Но это просто, знаете, могу вам сказать, НАТО в опасности, если руководство НАТО делает такие заявления. Потому что это значит, что люди... Значит, какой-то Роман Протасевич, я знать его не знаю и знать не хочу. Пускай он там делает, что хочет. Борется с режимом
He
Лукашенко.
says it like it is. You know, if it's true.
Правовую...
Что
Just like anyone saying anything.
вы будете с американским президентом обсуждать?
Мы будем обсуждать вопросы двусторонних отношений. Я исхожу из того, что мы должны попытаться найти пути урегулирования этих
He
отношений.
is the peacemaker,
Находится на чрезвычайно ниском уровне. Мы это
peace dealer.
Мы будем говорить о стратегической стабильности, об урегулировании международных конфликтов в наиболее горячих точках. Мы будем говорить
Drink it while running.
о борьбе с терроризмом, надеюсь, о пандемии, борьбе с пандемией. И,
They fight terrorism just like
ну, это примерная повестка дня.
any empire,
Соединенных
or should I say our empire.
У них есть только одно разногласие. Они
You know.
хотят сдерживать наше развитие. Говорят об этом публично. Вот все остальное производное от этой позиции. Все. И ограничения в сфере экономики, и попытка влиять на внутриполитические процессы в нашей стране, опираясь на те силы, которые они считают своими внутри России. Я думаю, что это борьба за деньги со стороны тех, кто производит препараты подобного рода в других странах и хочет освоить европейский рынок. И делает это с присущим им обычным блеском. У них это хорошо получается. В связи с тем, что у кого-то есть соответствующие структуры национальные, которые лаборатории, которые занимаются оценкой различных фармакологических препаратов. А у кого-то вообще таких структур нет, и они вынуждены ждать решения европейского регулятора. Вот у кого есть, они некоторые принимают такие решения, как Венгрия, например. Они приняли такое решение, сертифицировали у себя и используют спутники. Ну, конечно, политика всегда в чем-то где-то присутствует, но в данном случае, на мой взгляд, прежде всего речь идет о экономических, коммерческих интересах в ущерб гражданам европейских стран.
Almost everything we use depends on silicon semiconductors.
I'm trying to figure out if I need to go up
Your iPhones, your
first.
fridge, your air filter.
The most advanced
You know, because I can.
computers, the most basic toaster ovens.
What's turning on your indicators, what's turning on your radio in your car, that's a chip.
Today, about 1 trillion chips are made a year, or 128 for every person on the planet. And China's government is lending the industry the same strategic importance it gave to its atomic bomb program.
It's
Nice.
arguably a lot more important because you are talking about China becoming self-reliant on the technology that powers all of
Mattress?
mankind's future scientific advances.
The key semiconductor is the advanced logic chip. It's the most expensive and
Good time to loot also.
silicon that gives computers.
Just feel like we're gonna find more than enough things.
This is the microprocessor designed by Apple, designed by Qualcomm, are made by only a very few companies, and they're made on the very, very most advanced manufacturing.
Right now, there's one company that's crucial when it comes to making advanced logic chips. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC.
And it is a company that makes customized chips for a lot of global tech companies, including Apple and Nvidia and MediaTek.
So when TSMC has a shortage, entire industries shut down. And this dependency on Taiwan worries Western countries.
The other concern that has been voiced by others is the fact that China claims Taiwan, which is a democratically self-governing island. China has always said it wants to take over Taiwan by force if necessary.
But China's also worried since they too rely on Taiwan, which has strong ties to the US for their chip imports.
I'm doing this room wrong.
The result of all this, multi-billion-dollar plans by multiple countries in a race
I think
to dominate.
Need to
the
do this
power
first,
of
yeah?
all.
There's like graphics cards and shit. Straight first.
The transistors which give chips their functionality are small, very small.
The way to measure size in the chip industry is in nanometers. These are billionths of a meter. The current state of the art
A grenade here?
5 nanometers. They are smaller than a virus. Very soon we're going to get to the point where these layers of materials that we use to build up a transistor on a chip are going to be an atom thick. Once we get to that point, we can't make them any smaller.
The smaller transistors are, the more you can fit into a chip. In turn will offer more power. But making these chips has gotten so incredibly complicated and expensive, it's difficult to keep up. That's why the number of manufacturers at the industry's cutting edge has fallen from over 25 in 2000 to just 3.
There are fewer and fewer companies actually producing leading edge silicon for a very simple reason. You need $15–20 billion to build just one semiconductor factory, and that factory is obsolete within 5 years. That means you need to be running that 24/7.
That's a good point.
Producing hundreds of millions of devices a year, and those devices need to be selling at a very high premium, otherwise you're losing money. And there are really only a few companies that understand the brutal, economics of the industry, and that they can play that game and win.
But now the American champion Intel has shown signs of a slowdown. Although it's dominated the industry for the last 30 years, it's starting to fall behind in manufacturing and has announced that, like everyone else, it may start outsourcing some of its work to TSMC.
What really changed, though, over the last decade is that you've had what's called the birth and the growth of foundries. These are companies that specialize only in manufacturing and take designs from other companies and make them with the best process technology. In the past, they couldn't really keep up with Intel, but now, particularly TSMC and to a secondary extent Samsung, have actually got ahead. The net result of that is that a company like Qualcomm, a company like Apple, can design a processor, send that design around the world electronically and have that design made into a piece of silicon on a more advanced process.
By volume, South Korea's Samsung actually makes more chips than any other manufacturer. But the company mainly focuses on memory chips, rather than the custom-made logic chips that companies depend on TSMC for.
Everybody wants TSMC to do the best stuff because TSMC are better at it. It's as simple as that. The economics and the technology, they've won. Above 30% of the most advanced logic is done in those factories in Hsinchu.
Take a chance.
TSMC engineers.
I think I'm gonna put stuff here.
Both Samsung and Intel have recently announced multi-billion-dollar investments in the foundry business, although they won't be a threat to TSMC for years to come.
Maybe not.
But whether it's South Korea, the United States, or Taiwan, China's relationship with all three is less than ideal. Not to mention, a lot of the equipment and software provided to TSMC and Samsung to manufacture chips made by
I'm doing a mistake now, but
There are only a select few companies that can make these machines that scrape off these fine patterns with ultra UV lasers. You know, this is
I'm alone, so
level technology. Applied
here, not here.
in California, KLA Tencor. Lots of these companies that you've never heard of are absolutely crucial in the supply chain in making these machines that then translate into these multi-billion-dollar factories that make chips.
And the US has leveraged its position to enact sanctions on China, banning the country from using US technology out of security concerns.
So we're all familiar with the example of Huawei, whose smartphone business has basically been essentially obliterated by US sanctions, whether it's software, whether it's actual chip components, materials that go into chips, or equipment that you use to fabricate chips. All of that is technically banned.
The American tech embargo began as an effort against Huawei over national security, but bans and restrictions now affect at least 60 firms. These include SMIC, China's chip champion, which has been put on a blacklist. At the end of 2020, TSMC's sales to Chinese clients dropped by roughly 70%. And for the first time ever, Huawei reported a drop in revenue.
I think I see the green smoke here, yeah.
China's rise as a superpower in technology is regarded as a threat to very fundamental American interests. They are military foes, and the last thing Washington wants is also to see a technological foe with the wherewithal or the capabilities to wage technological warfare on the United States.
But US sanctions might not be such
Look at these tires.
solution. China is the largest purchaser of chips in the world, as well as a manufacturer of less sophisticated chips, companies like Qualcomm and other American companies.
Bear in mind that a lot of American businesses rely on China for growth, so there is very strong pushback from the private sector to allow the flow of American technology to China to resume. But if you look at the overall picture, I think the Biden administration shares the Trump administration's objectives in curtailing China's rise as a technological power, and that's because that would have ramifications for really long-term strategic goals.
We're investing aggressively in areas like semiconductors and batteries. That's what they're doing and others. So must we.
But cutting China out completely isn't an option, since much of the world depends on China to manufacture most of their electronics, like iPhones.
A chip designed, say, by Apple in Cupertino in California will be made in Taiwan, then packaged into something that's going to end up in an iPhone in the Philippines. That chip then makes its way to China, where it gets plugged into an iPhone. That iPhone then gets on a plane and gets sold in Europe, or maybe even comes back to Cupertino and gets sold in the Apple store. So the semiconductor supply chain is arguably one of the most complex and widely geographically spread supply chains in the world.
From Beijing's perspective, US sanctions are a way to keep China at the bottom end of the supply chain, forever stuck as a low-tier manufacturing hub. That's why China is determined to become self-sufficient and is shifting into its highest gear. During its annual NPC meeting in
I'm gonna sell the
2025,
effect that I
President
can
Xi
sell.
Jinping pledged $1.4 trillion to accelerate their tech industry and become totally independent from foreign technology.
One of the announcements that we've seen come out since the NPC has been SMIC, China's top chip maker, signing an agreement to build a $2.5 billion semiconductor foundry or manufacturing plant with Shenzhen's government.
Hey, 90,000 for a meg.
Of those private public
And people are buying that. I
where
can't believe that.
private giant or entities such as SMIC drive private capital into national objectives.
Subsonic
or
action.
Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation is China's largest foundry. Although it's still decades behind Taiwan's TSMC, China has shown its ability to throw money and human resources at the development of mega projects. But the chip industry isn't quite the same thing.
There have been numerous failures in terms of China's domestic chip development effort. SMIC is an example of a success, but there have been plenty more that have fallen by the wayside. Literally hundreds of much smaller corporations that you and I have never heard of, that raised capital but ultimately failed to deliver on its goals.
It's
TSMC
a tough business to go in.
Takes much more than
Currently
capital and human resources.
to construct.
It
Yeah,
takes time.
takes quite the
So
investment like that.
TSMC
Yeah.
was founded in
Pretty big.
1987, and it has spent more than 30 years
Their point of view, man.
developing and creating its own manufacturing technology.
There's this dude that made a fucking chip that's like this big, dude. Fucking made it home or some shit. I don't know.
Create a
own project, you know?
semiconductor ecosystem overnight.
And unlike the US or China, Taiwan's economy is largely built around semiconductors. TSMC is located in the small town of Hsinchu, which hosts
I mean, if you need a robot to do that,
system of other well-established chip manufacturing and packaging companies. And the industry also attracts Taiwan's best talent.
One of Taiwan's best paying industry is the semiconductor industry. So with that incentive, a lot of school children would see the electrical engineering or anything that's related to the semiconductor manufacturing as their top choice when they decide on which university departments they want to go to. So in the US, you have students choosing to study computer science or other subjects that would be more related to the skills that big tech companies like Google or Amazon require.
Likewise, in China, students are much more likely to be attracted by companies like Tencent, Baidu, and Alibaba, or make their own app.
One of the things that Chinese officials in recent years have been stressing, it's fine to build the world's best food delivery app, but at the same time, you need also to be able to attract talent into areas such as AI, quantum computing, basic scientific developments, what we call the hard sciences or hard tech.
To counter the lack of talent in the field, China's been recruiting talent from abroad, which has been controversial in Taiwan and the US,
That's a lucky Rolex,
industry
isn't it?
seeking intellectual property.
China has been hiring aggressively from Taiwan over the past few years.
I'm
And
missing an Ismarch.
maybe concerned is these people may bring their know-how to China and help China.
But I do have the
develop the
AFAC for that.
industry more swiftly and more effectively. And there is actually a well-known IP theft case. The U.S. memory maker Micron has sued Taiwan's UMC and a number of engineers. Micron alleged that some of these
Grizzly's 40,000, that's 10 Tower Square.
some know-how from Micron to help UMC's Chinese partner.
It's fine, but it's gotta go at some point.
Memory chips in China.
But all these resources and talent still don't necessarily equal success. To make a profit, companies like TSMC have a huge amount of orders from a diverse number of clients, and that also takes years to build up. So if Taiwan was suddenly cut off by a China invasion, for example, there is no TSMC replacement.
Let's say if Apple decides to find another partner, it will take years for them to get this other chip maker to be ready, if at all. So without TSMC, you will not be able to have chips in your iPhones, and you will not have chips for your F-35 fighter jets that the US flies. So it will be a very different world we are talking about without TSMC in it.
This choke point came to light during the pandemic, when a chip shortage cost the auto industry billions of dollars.
The pandemic has been a fascinating story and arguably a turning point moment for the semiconductor industry. Dial the clock back a year ago to early 2020 and the forecasts were dire. Economic activity around the world in the pandemic was going to come crashing down, and that was going to kill demand for semiconductors. What really happened though was, as we were locked in our homes, studying and working from home, we felt an increasing need for the electronic services, for the electronic devices that had been around us all the time, but we felt a much more intense need for them, and that had a knock-on huge effect in creating demand for semiconductors. Roll the clock forward to where we are now, demand has come surging back, and it's come surging back in sectors where it really wasn't expected to. For example, the automotive industry, which thought that essentially the world was ending, that there was no demand for cars and they were going to have to shut plants down. They're having to shut plants down because they can't get enough chips.
This prompted the US to sign deals with TSMC and Samsung to build factories on their own turf.
If
they're probably at 218, I think.
being billed as an electronic Cold War fully materialized, that
I'll go.
goes its own way in technology, that Europe and the US go in another direction, then perhaps it makes increasingly more economic sense to have facilities here.
The biggest economic choke point of the 20th century may have been oil passing through the Strait of Hormuz. But now it's microscopic silicon transistors manufactured in Taiwan. And while the US and China are fighting for control of the technology, they still depend on each other for the most part.
The trade war really is a case of be careful what you wish for. The chip industry brought attention to itself and lobbied for action against China for years on IP protection. Now that it's happened, they're not happy with the situation. Why they're not happy with that situation? Because they depend upon the Chinese market. It's the fastest growing, biggest market.
Is that it?
They need
Maybe on the board here.
to sell chips into China. Right now, China needs them.
Bed.
China needs what they're
Bag.
producing. Massive wake-up call for China. A massive call to them to show that they need to be independent. The worst case scenario for the US is that China makes that leap, that this next 5-year plan or the 5-year plan after that finally hits home. Chinese chip manufacturers emerge to Intel, to Nvidia, to Broadcom, to what Apple can produce inside.
Relax, just a scav.
At least from a globalist's point of view, is bipolarization of the world. where you have US and China and countries around the world lining up behind one or the other. It's not good for a lot of things. Just
Oh my God.
with global trade. But if I may be allowed to wax lyrical for a second,
A blue.
of humankind.
I think I need to leave. I can sell that on market for like 10 million. So I need to leave.
Tonight, President Biden declared the United States is back on his first foreign trip since taking office, and major news in the race to vaccinate the
Because
world.
if you add the profit of the rest of the items you're going to find with their probability multiplied, and you also add the profit that you're going to lose by dying to a player while you're raiding West Wing, multiply with their probability, which are much higher. Maybe the numbers are much bigger because it's 10 million you're losing. You understand really quick that we need to extract. Please, there no be scampers. Don't want to give my blue card to therapist. That would really suck, but you know, the kind of things that happen. We're listening. We're looking. We're looking as best we can. I think getting there fast as best we can. Very good. We're out. 10 mil.
Taking to U.S. troops based in the U.K. as he embarks on his first major
10 mil minimum.
The major announcement he's set to make, the U.S.
15 maybe.
500 million Pfizer doses to donate globally, and his high-stakes mission to shore up support among America's allies ahead of his first face-to-face meeting with Vladimir Putin. While back home, the battle he leaves behind after infrastructure talks with Republicans collapsed. The vaccine pile up in the U.S., why hundreds of thousands of Johnson & Johnson doses are in danger of going to waste. Those long lines at the airport as travel bounces back. The TSA so short-handed, it's asking for volunteers. Our team going inside the mission at the border to stop human smugglers and the increasingly extreme measures migrants are taking to enter the U.S. The image is captivating millions around the world. The herd of endangered elephants on a 300-mile journey. The mystery over their destination. And inspiring America, the singer, after a heartbreaking diagnosis, who brought the judges to tears.
Where are the elephants going?
This is NBC Nightly News.
Do you know where the elephants are going?
Good evening, everyone. Just shy of 5 months in which he's faced a host of urgent domestic priorities, from COVID to the economy. President Joe Biden is turning his attention overseas tonight, arriving in London this evening at the start of a jam-packed 8-day mission to reset U.S. relations with Europe. But he also looks to project a message of...
But these haven't sold 27. These are kind of new here at 23. What do you think I should sell this for? I think 18 million is quite enough, frankly. 18 million. You know. This dude hopes to make the money. I'm totally undercutting him by like 11 million. Totally undercutting these guys. Saying straight up that this is the price of the blue key card as it stands. Even though I never entered the blue room. I just looked up Tarkov University on YouTube. And that's what I think it's worth. And someone's going to buy it, I swear. Line. Hey, that's pretty interesting. We did what, 11 raids? We're now at 11 raids. Right? Great. 11 raids. Blue key card on market for 18 million. Which I'm very satisfied with. We're probably going to sell. Given that we sell. Dude, 18 million for 11 raids. I think that's pretty good money. It was found in the ambulance outside, yeah. 18 million. Even if I sell it at 22 million, which is still lower than market, that's 2 million per raid. That's pretty good. I stand at 1.7 1.6 mil per raid right now. If I sell. That's the equivalent of finding, like, you know, LEDs and a graphics card. It's going pretty good. Now we just need to get our red key card. Can ditch shoreline.
Of strength and stability.
Unless we find one.
To American adversaries near and far.
Can you imagine making 70 million rubles, dude?
For his high stakes face-to-face
70 million rubles.
So much on the table, from nuclear arms to cyber attacks traced to Russian soil. It's President Biden's first foreign trip in office, and our Peter Alexander is traveling with him.
Tonight, the commander-in-chief arriving overseas.
The way he welcomes people with his hands like this.
Face-to-face meeting with Vladimir
Putin. To the G7, then.
Oops, I apologize.
Declared the United strength and stability.
I hope I try to do well.
Tonight, the commander-in-chief arriving overseas, greeting U.S. troops.
I like it. I fucking like it. I might just start doing that. Welcome.
G7, then.
So good to see you again.
With Mr. Putin.
Go to someone like that. See what the fuck they're like not expecting it. But how does everybody does like when he meets them, you know? They know, like.
Strengthening the alliance, make it clear to Putin and to China that Europe and the United States are tight.
President Biden, under pressure to do more to address a global vaccine shortage, will announce that the U.S. has agreed to
extend your hand to the president.
To send around the world.
And then he grabs it like that.
To rebuild ties after 4 years of former President Trump's America First agenda.
Even email from the White House. When you greet the presidents, stand up straight. Extend your hand to the president.
And gathering with G7 leaders representing.
Oh, that's so far.
Before being hosted at Windsor Castle.
I'll show you what we're going to do now.
In Belgium, meeting with the EU and NATO, an alliance Mr. Trump threatened to quit. All of it before that one-on-one with Putin in Geneva that comes amid a rise in ransomware attacks, including those targeting America's food and gas supply that U.S. authorities believe came from Russia.
We're not seeking conflict with Russia. We want a stable, predictable relationship.
Republicans tonight slamming President Biden's
stable, predictable relationship. I like it.
On all fronts.
Ever thought that there could be something here?
And with President Biden expected to bring up the arrest of Alexei Navalny, new reports that Navalny's political organization has just been banned by...
We're going northeast, and we're going through the stashes everywhere on a straight line. The first one is near a little housey.
Yeah, Lester, that's right. The president's
Here?
message to allies here is simple.
Not going into the village.
After serving as chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and as vice president,
Players might be there. We don't.
hoping to deliver on his own vision for the world.
Peter Alexander, thank you. Andrea Mitchell was also with the president in the UK. And Andrea, on that meeting with Putin, I know there's some thought that a key for the president will be his tone.
That's right, Lester. President Biden says that he wants a stable.
Oh, I think it's inside here, isn't it?
With Vladimir Putin. But so far, the only thing that's been predictable about Putin is that
Could be wrong.
challenge President Biden on many fronts. On
That's
Russia,
the outer edge. That's the south part. I want to go inside here.
responsibility
Past the pylon.
who are operating on Russian soil. So while President Biden says that he hopes to be able to work with Putin on climate, arms control, on Iran, still, most importantly, he wants to be able to show that he will stand up to Russian aggression, setting a very
We're gonna do the box.
tone than former President Trump. Lester.
Andrea Mitchell, thank you. Back here in the U.S., millions of Johnson & Johnson vaccine doses could be close to expiring as demand drops off. Just under 172 million Americans have received at least one dose of the 3 vaccines.
No, it's really on the edge.
Just slightly. Here's Miguel Almaguer.
We're gonna get better at this.
With our nation already facing a dwindling demand for vaccinations, tonight potentially
touching.
millions of Johnson &
Don't
Johnson
care for
doses
paracord
are
Vulcan,
sitting
though.
on shelves.
A lot of cash.
In 2 weeks, 200,000 shots in Ohio may need to be tossed out. West Virginia has some 25,000 doses nearing expiration.
We all know this is a precious resource, and it's a precious research across the world, so it would be a pity to see some of it activated.
Dose is coveted around the world because of its easy storage at, say, a doctor's office, and its one-and-done dose.
Yeah, whatever this raucous is, eh?
So even upon its use, its popularity...
Next time, go here, I think.
Of the more than 21 million J&J doses distributed nationwide, nearly half have not yet been administered. States are asking the White House to coordinate their
How much training is wait, dude?
authorities also look to
There's no way they're
storage
fighting.
beyond
There's just
3
no way.
months. Still, the nation's biggest hurdle remains vaccine hesitancy.
I haven't taken the vaccine, and the reason is I don't trust it.
In parts of Alabama, less than
J6 running out, right? Yeah.
vaccinated, even as authorities warn that
Interesting.
Delta variant, the most contagious of the pandemic, may next threaten the U.S.
I made it this far.
Do you think I should do the 2 other ones?
Vaccinated, but eventually we all gonna have to get vaccinated. But I'm cool right now.
It took the
I don't know.
Lyle's mother to COVID for him to get vaccinated.
I got vaccinated 2 days after my mom passed. She passed on 21st, got it on the 22nd.
Tonight, the push to vaccinate and the race not to waste critical doses. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
A reminder, you can make a plan for when and where to get vaccinated. Visit planyourvaccine.com.
Oh, Lord.
In just 60 seconds, a severe staffing...
Thunder in there.
Just as the number of people...
Gonna change helmet if you don't stop, man.
If you've been flying, then you may have seen it for yourself. The TSA is struggling to put enough screeners at some of our busiest airports as travel ramps up. Erin McLaughlin tonight on what flyers can expect.
Tonight in airports across the country, a summer scramble.
When is this so fucking
A record number of travelers returning
fucked
to
up?
airports after historic pandemic lows.
Dude, this is a bad entry. I'm really not a fan right now.
That more than 130 of the nation's largest airports are struggling to staff airport screeners. The ripple effect from the TSA shortage already being felt by travelers at major airports.
This is crazy.
Security lines so long in Austin and Charlotte, hundreds of
I think I
travelers
heard
have missed
people.
their flights. While airports in Detroit, Denver, and outside Washington, D.C. are reportedly among the hardest hit.
Like a zoo.
With a summer spike in air travel expected, a top TSA official warning help is needed, asking TSA office workers to volunteer to manage long lines and other non-security related tasks. According to
Outside.
Mabey, Union reps say this problem can't be solved overnight.
You can't train a TSO in a matter of weeks. TSA is a very dangerous job that a lot of people don't know.
I'm taking your blue key card, boy.
Ways to pay.
TSA releasing
What you gonna do, huh?
insisting the agency is well positioned to meet rising traveler volumes. Pointing to a concerted recruitment effort the agency began in the winter with $1,000 incentives for positions nationwide.
If you're traveling this summer, experts say arrive at the airport 2 to 3 hours before your
I'm
flight.
lost.
Don't forget to wear your mask. It's still a federal
push.
requirement, both at the airport and in the air. Lester?
All right, Aaron, thanks. President Biden has ended those negotiations on infrastructure with a Republican senator, and now a bipartisan group of lawmakers is moving forward with their own plan for a deal. Garrett Haake has more for us from the Capitol.
Tonight, infrastructure negotiations entering a new phase, with President Biden ending talks with a group of Republicans led by Senator Shelley Moore Capito on Tuesday and reaching out to members of a bipartisan group of moderate senators. The group huddling for 3 hours in a cramped Capitol basement office last night.
We've come together with a proposal that may be able to bridge the gap between the two sides.
The senators haven't released any details of their proposal, except that it won't raise taxes at all, a red line for attracting GOP votes. That a difficult task with Republicans opposed to much of the president's initial plan. This as frustration builds among some Democrats to drop bipartisan talks and move to pass as much as they can with just 50 Democratic votes, itself a work in progress.
If this doesn't work, would you be willing to go it alone, the Democrat-only option?
Third floor.
Never give up.
That bipartisan group knows time isn't on their side. One senator telling me today they only have about a week to get a deal. Lester?
Garrett, thank you. Now to the record migrant surge in our series American Crossroads. NBC's Tom Yamas getting a first-hand look at the
Third floor, second floor, through the hall.
to try to avoid the Border Patrol and get into the U.S.
More and more, the coast of Southern California turning into a floating crime scene. A new surge at this border, creating a life and death struggle just steps from the beach.
It's chaotic. It was very chaotic.
In the last month alone, 4 migrants have died, including 3 who drowned when their boat lost power, hit a reef, and smashed into pieces. Dozens of migrants forced to jump for their lives. Here, Customs and Border Protection now seeing a nearly 100% increase in migrant apprehensions since 2019.
Off the coast of San Diego, they've ramped up border enforcement. They've had to because the numbers are spiking now. And smugglers are charging. They're becoming even more reckless.
We rode with Customs and Border Protection's Aaron.
Man, when you're stuck in 301, you're stuck.
Between Mexico and California.
A smuggler looks at a kilo of cocaine, a pound of fentanyl, and a baby.
Chadicus Finch.
All the same way.
They can. Yeah, it's all money. It's all a commodity.
There's nothing to see here, boys. I'm just looking at the stash.
And in the ocean, these specialized teams are patrolling around the clock, stopping all types of vessels.
Meanwhile,
as smugglers try to or pose as recreational boaters and fishermen, sometimes refusing to stop.
We're just seeing the smugglers be more abrasive, more
no fucking mouth.
just running into us, ramming, kicking people off their boat.
You still here? You still here? Cappuccino? Cappuccino? Mic is clear. Do you mean like it's too loud? Let me know though.
From sending their children alone with smugglers,
We're gonna test your testing.
tossing them over 14-foot barriers.
For me, it's a little.
Migrants
It's a tad too loud. It's unbearably uncontrollable.
Customs and Border agents
Unbearably uncontrollable.
force and heightened border wall has forced smugglers to take extreme measures.
Controlling the uncontrollable.
Village in Mexico, Luz Maria Perez
Thank you.
cries at the altar she built for her daughter Maria Eugenia.
Thank you, thank you.
She was on board that doomed ship that sunk off San Diego, drowning, trying to make.
This is the route. I found a blue key card
41-year-old
past raid. I just put it on market for
in the U.S.
18 mil.
Crossing illegally twice before and told family she was going to give it one last try.
Yeah, when you're stuck here, you're fucked.
Telling us she wants
You
the
are
smuggler
fucked.
to be
You're one fucked bunny.
killing her daughter with a false promise that sent her
The only choice is to fucking jump, but then anybody with the fucking two brain cells fucking takes the stairs and sees you right here trying to repair your legs.
Families are having as their kids start to re-enter life as we knew it.
But I did survive when I tried.
What parents need to know.
I did live. So I guess I'm just gonna have to do that.
This Massachusetts field lacrosse is back. But for some, the so-called return to normal is anything but.
Just feels weird seeing everybody's full face, and it always feels like I'm missing something.
For a lot of kids, like 12-year-old Charlotte Sutcliffe, post-pandemic life can be confusing and still scary.
I think most of my friends have been pretty respectful, and I think they're on the same page as I follow the guidelines, and I don't take my mask off unless I feel completely comfortable.
Her mom says they took things slow.
We started to go out more, spend more time with friends outside. We went to a museum just to kind of practice being around other people.
What the fuck is she talking about?
Just speaking as a
Can I just do something, Mom?
Runs the
Fuck
child
you.
CRT program at Mass General.
Some kids have been.
Unless she thinks her kid is gonna fucking not feel good about meeting new people, which,
or interacting with peers.
you know, I would just have said personally, I'm fucking tired of it, Mom.
Shannon
Get me
says
the fuck out of here.
Things caregivers can do. Talk about it. Don't dismiss what kids are feeling. Come up with a plan kids can use to help themselves be brave. Make the transition gradual. And make sure kids understand everyone does things at their own pace. Charlotte will be fully vaccinated soon and is getting more comfortable every day. She says things like a plane trip may still give her pause, but she knows at her own speed she'll reach her goals. Kristen Dahlgren and
I'm enjoying the
There's more to tell you about tonight. Up next, Americans on a spending
MP7
spree.
again.
Surprising things a lot of us are buying as the summer heats up. That's coming up next in The Price You Pay.
We could totally do the MP7A2 now.
Summer unofficially here and COVID restrictions easing. Many
Oh my god, I sold my key card.
on style. Stephanie Rule now with The Price You Pay.
Actually, another one sold their key card
Summer,
for 23
Americans are
mil or
trading
something
sweats
too.
and hand sanitizer for crop tops and false eyelashes.
It's been awesome to see people wanting pants.
Here comes the fucking cash.
Are flying off store shelves. Sales of teeth whiteners.
Oh
and
god,
eyeshadow
that
are
feels
up
good.
over 50%
Oh, that
this
feels
quarter.
so good.
Lipstick and breath freshener seeing double
Oh, there's no-
growth too.
There's nothing like it.
Appliances like electric razors up almost 30% since 2019.
People are buying the fun bathing suits and the fun short sleeve shirts. They're traveling again.
Mall foot traffic is up to pre-pandemic
right
levels, and retail sales for the month of April are up
Oh, there's nothing like
22%
that.
from that same
There's
month in
nothing like that.
2019. Rent the Runway founder Jennifer Hyman is seeing a
Maybe a red key
demand
card.
for both
Maybe another key card, but
her
key
women's
card.
clothing rental company. Her active users have doubled
pretty cool,
from
dude.
this time a year ago.
So it's all about mini length, it's about bright colors, it's
There's
about
money
prints,
everywhere.
happy, super fashion with a capital F.
Is this what you expected in terms of trends coming out of the pandemic?
I didn't expect this to happen with as much kind of ferociousness as we're seeing. I mean, the recovery is here much earlier and steeper than I expected. I have never seen anything like this.
Stephanie, it looks like people are simply ready to spend.
So 20 mil, I don't have more
Many
space.
Americans have been
Need to be
staying home
spending.
and saving up. The personal
FYI.
savings rate in April was double April 2019 levels. In March, it quadrupled. Now that
Unless I want to go
whole
to a higher level,
Lester?
Yes, people
I
get to
don't
step
think
out.
I
All right,
do.
Stephanie, thank you. Across the world, millions have been following endangered elephants on an incredible journey. Our Janice Mackey-Freyer on the phenomenon.
I think this is like a
Tonight, a herd of
single
wandering wild
shot.
elephants
too.
on an epic trek in China.
Right.
300 miles so far. And for the first time, a rest. The images captured by one of a dozen drones now tracking them.
Not
Where
interesting.
they're going
Single
is
shot.
still a mystery.
They need more home due to the habitat loss or fragmentations, and they need a huge area to roam around.
Their road trip started from a nature reserve in the south, through towns and fields, causing $1 million damage along the way. A task force now trying to steer them back, using roadblocks and tons of food bait. The elephants loving corn, but not pineapples. All of it being monitored in real time and captivating Chinese social media.
Change.
One possibility is that the leader of the pack got lost, and now they're all just following the food.
A 24-hour command center has been set up to monitor the elephants, with reports now another herd may be on the move. Lester?
Incredible pictures. Janice, thank you.
Pretty
Also
cheap,
tonight, we
50,000
want to
compared to a
story
gun
of
like
Harvard-bound high
rate
school
100,000.
senior who surprised everyone at her graduation ceremony with a big-hearted act of generosity. Here's Morgan Radford with that.
When Verda Tete walked across the stage to get her diploma, she did something no one expected.
I am not
the most in need of it.
She asked to donate her $40,000
That's why I'm not fucking
scholarship money.
fine.
I would be so very grateful if
So Action Subsonic, but I'm looking at FMJ.
consider giving the General Excellence Scholarship
Right?
to someone who's going to the community college.
Was this a spur of the moment decision?
I was very proud and happy at first.
I don't want action.
And started hitting me, like I said, that someone else needs it more. So I made my mind up that I would do the right thing.
I want.
Who's headed to Harvard?
Oh Lord.
To the U.S. from Ghana.
Right,
at
$3
age
each.
8. Her
I want
mother worked
FMJs
80 hours a week while
and
attending
Subsonic,
community college.
which you get
When you
600.
were
No
young,
action.
were you
Don't want action.
watching your mom work and go to school at the same time?
Yes, yeah. I told them, you can do it. Just go work hard. Pay it off.
Subsonic by 120 just because I don't know how much I have.
I'm proud of what I did, and I stand by that. I know that this lady is going to make a change in the world one day.
And she already has. Morgan Radford, NBC News, New York.
What a terrific story. Up next for us, talent and person.
You can do that. Just fucking give everyone your money, college funds and shit. You can do that.
The remarkable thing that happened on the stage of America's Got Talent. Something powerful and authentic that no one will forget. If you had told Jane Marcheski a year ago that she would step onto the stage of America's Got Talent, chances are she wouldn't have believed you.
I was a stupid dynamite and it just was a matter of time, yeah.
A little more than a year ago, I was diagnosed with terminal cancer and given 6 months to live. Based on the statistics, I had a 2% chance of survival.
Jane, who performs under the name Nightbird, sang an original song that chronicled her tumultuous journey this past year.
Original song.
That song brought the normally
Incredible
stoic
talent.
Simon Cowell to tears.
There was something about that song after the way you just almost casually told us what you're going through, and
You have a talent, my friend.
It prompted him to hit the golden.
You have a talent, my friend.
Sending Nightbird straight to the live shows.
I've been preparing for a moment like this for my whole life. I have lots of songs and lots of stuff to share, and I hope that life keeps opening up a path for me to do that.
So many reasons to cheer for
how
that
much
young
for a road
lady.
test?
That's Nightly News for this Wednesday. Thank you for watching. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Hey, NBC News viewers. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking
It's
on
the
that
only
button
thing
down
that you can
here,
put on this
and
thing.
click on any of the videos
No
over here
way.
to watch the latest interviews, show
You will
highlights,
not
and
allow me to
digital
put anything but this.
Thanks for watching.
You cost me cash, man. That's 120,000 right there. Change my stats any? 51, 172.
When Verta Tete walked across the stage to get her diploma, she did something no one expected.
I am not the most in need of it.
She asked to donate her $40,000 in scholarship money.
I would be so very grateful if administration would consider giving the General Excellence Scholarship to someone who's going to community college.
Was this a spur of the moment decision?
I was very
Where's my
proud and happy at first, but then
fucking-
I sat down
oh,
and started
okay.
hitting me, like I said, that someone else needs it more. So I made my mind up that I would do the right thing.
Verta, who's headed to Harvard, immigrated to the U.S. from Ghana at age 8. Her mother worked 80 hours a week while attending community college.
When you were young, were you watching your mom work and go to school at the same time?
Yes, yeah. I told them, you can do it. Just go work hard. Pay it off.
A lesson she's paying forward.
No matter what happens, I'm proud of what I did, and I stand by that. I know that this lady is going to make a change in the world one day.
And she already has. Morgan Radford, NBC News, New York.
It's a lot to put on people's shoulders. Don't you think?
This summer, Americans are trading sweats and hand sanitizer for crop tops and false eyelashes.
It's been awesome to see people wanting pants again.
Personal care products are flying off store shelves. Sales of teeth whiteners and eye makeup are up over 50% this quarter. Lipstick and breath freshener seeing double-digit growth too. Personal appliances like electric razors up almost 30% since 2019.
People are buying the fun bathing suits and the fun short sleeve shirts. They're traveling again.
Mall foot traffic is up to pre-pandemic levels, and retail sales for the month of April are up 22% from that same month in 2019. Rent the Runway founder Jennifer Hyman is seeing a boom in demand for bold looks at her women's clothing rental company. Her active users have doubled from this time a year ago.
So it's all about mini lengths, it's about bright colors, it's about prints, happy, super fashion with a capital F.
Is this what you expected in terms of trends coming out of the pandemic?
I didn't expect this to happen with as much kind of ferociousness as we're seeing. I mean, the recovery is here much earlier and steeper than I expected. I had never seen anything like this.
Missing summer.
Stephanie, it looks like people are simply ready to spend.
Many are. Americans have been staying home and saving up. The personal savings rate in April was double April 2019 levels. In March, it quadrupled. Now that cash is burning a hole in people's pockets.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
What are these fucking... You guys seeing this? Look at this stuffing, dude. Full of stuffing. Oh, I love Ben and Jerry.
More and more, the coast of Southern California turning into a floating crime scene. A new surge at this border, creating a life and death struggle just steps from the beach.
It's chaotic. It's very chaotic.
In the last month alone, 4 migrants have died, including 3 who drowned when their boat lost power, hit a reef, and smashed into pieces. Dozens of migrants forced to jump for their lives. Here, Customs and Border Protection now seen a nearly 100% increase in migrant apprehensions since 2019.
Off the coast of San Diego, they've ramped up border enforcement. They've had to because the numbers are spiking
Better.
now.
It's cool too. It pulls you off ice cream, you know.
Tens of thousands of dollars per person, and they're becoming even more.
I'm still in this fucking spot.
With Customs and Border Protection's air and marine operations as they hunted for smugglers along the busy maritime border between Mexico and California.
A smuggler looks at a kilo of cocaine, a pound of fentanyl, and a baby, a human baby, all the same way.
They can. Yeah.
What does he say?
Money.
Arriba! Yeah, I thought he was gonna make a joke, so I'm so sorry.
Every day.
In the air and in the ocean, these specialized teams are patrolling around the clock, stopping all types of vessels as smugglers try to blend in or pose as recreational boaters and fishermen, sometimes refusing to stop.
For the same smugglers be more abrasive, more, just running into us, ramming, kicking people off their boat at the mercy of the surf.
The risks might
Taking people off their boat.
are part of a growing trend happening all across the
Do you find me concerned?
sending their children alone with smugglers who've been seen tossing them over 14-foot barriers to migrants hiding on moving trains, squeezing into locked rail cars and wheel wells.
Situation is dire.
Border agents tell NBC News they believe a reinforced and heightened border wall
They're ready to do anything
force
to
smugglers to take extreme measures.
get
In a remote village
their
in Mexico, Luz Maria Perez cries at the altar she built for her daughter Maria Eugenia.
their needs. Their needs.
She was on board that doomed ship that sunk off
When you're on your way out of your country, dude, nothing's stopping
shore.
you.
Eugenia, a
Nothing's stopping anyone.
single mom, was hoping to find work in the U.S. She was caught crossing illegally twice before and told family she was going to give it one last try.
Wow.
Now, her mother telling us she wants the
When
smuggler
you have no other option, dude.
for killing her daughter with a false promise that sent her not to America, but to this grave. Tom Llamas, NBC News.
You will die in this office if I find you here. East.
On this Massachusetts field, lacrosse is back.
I think I'm going up
For some,
east.
the so-called return to normal is anything but.
Just feels weird seeing everybody's full face, and it always feels like I'm missing something.
For a lot of kids, like 12-year-old Charlotte Sutcliffe, post-pandemic,
I don't think that's a bad idea.
confusing and still scary.
I think
Sorry about
been
that.
pretty respectful, and I think they're
I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
followed guidelines.
I want to do bags. I like
Take
bags.
my mask off unless I feel completely comfortable.
Her mom says they took things slow.
We started to go out more, spend more time with friends outside, we went to the museum, just to kind of practice being around other people.
And she's not just speaking as a parent. Ode Hannon is a psychologist and runs the Child CBT program at Mass General.
Some kids have been very reluctant to leave home. We have a lot of concerns about separating from parents or interacting with peers. Some kids are worried about getting sick.
Hannon says there are a few things caregivers can do. Talk about it. Don't
Put in your pockets, man. Why the back?
come up with a plan kids can use to help themselves be brave.
Come on, please.
Transition
Explain.
gradual. And make sure kids understand everyone does things at their own pace. Charlotte will be fully vaccinated soon and is getting more comfortable every day. She says things like a plane trip may still give her pause, but she knows
Do I drop here? I think I drop here.
she'll
Yeah.
reach her goals. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News.
Literally right. I get a little bit of precision for next time. Here. I don't know if there's any.
With our nation already facing a dwindling demand for vaccinations, tonight potentially millions of Johnson & Johnson doses are sitting on shelves set to soon expire. In 2 weeks, 200,000 shots in Ohio may need to be tossed out. West Virginia has some 25,000 doses nearing expiration.
We all know this is a precious resource, and it's a precious resource across the world, so it would be a pity to see some of it have to go to waste.
The J&J dose is coveted around the world because of its easy storage. Let's say a doctor's it's one-and-done dose, but after a safety concern and a positive use, its popularity plummeted.
Of the more than 21 million J&J doses distributed nationwide, nearly half have not yet been administered. States are asking the White House for a way to quickly coordinate their redistribution, as authorities also look to prolong their storage beyond 3 months. Still, the nation's biggest hurdle remains vaccine hesitancy.
I haven't taken the vaccine, and the reason is I don't.
We've seen where it is.
Parts of Alabama, less than 15% of residents are fully vaccinated, even as authorities warn the Delta variant, the most contagious of the pandemic, may next threaten the U.S.
I made it this far without getting COVID, and I don't need
Am I confused?
to get vaccinated. But eventually, we all gonna have
Why
to
am I
get
confused?
vaccinated, but I'm cool right now.
It took the loss of Antonio Lyle's mother to COVID for him to get vaccinated.
I got vaccinated. She passed the 21st. I got a
Oh, we know no one's been here.
Tonight, the push to vaccinate and the race not to waste critical doses. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
I'm gonna take this upstairs to 300. Find out what we can here.
Tonight, infrastructure negotiations entering a new phase, with President Biden ending talks with a group of Republicans led by Senator Shelley Moore Capito on Tuesday and reaching out to members of a bipartisan group of moderate senators. The group huddling for 3 hours in a cramped Capitol basement office last night.
We've come together with a proposal that may be able to bridge the gap between the two sides.
The senators haven't released any details of their proposal, except that it won't raise taxes at all, a red line for attracting GOP votes. That a difficult task with Republicans opposed to much of the president's initial plan. This as frustration builds among some Democrats to drop partisan talks and move to pass as much as they can with just 50 Democratic votes, itself a work in progress.
If this doesn't work, would you be willing to go it alone with a Democrat-only option?
Never give up. Never give up.
That bipartisan group knows time isn't on their side. One senator telling me today they only have about a week to get a deal.
There's someone over 218 and stuff.
Tonight, my exclusive conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris on the surge at the border. Her warning to migrants and those heartbreaking images of smuggled children. The VP meeting with Mexico's president on her first foreign
Right, because that's worth more.
on one interview. What she says to those
Am I doing this right?
criticizing her for not visiting the southern border, and her message to migrants not to come to the U.S. What makes her believe they will listen? Our team tonight on the border, where many families face an impossible choice. The new Senate report on security failures leading up to the Capitol riot. The warnings it says Capitol Police failed to act on. Dr. Fauci's new warning: the Delta COVID strain that devastated India could become dominant in the U.S. Vaccination slowdown, will the U.S. fall short of President Biden's July 4th goal? The massive global sting, over 800 arrested. The app they were using secretly controlled by the FBI. The Colonial Pipeline CEO.
What are we talking about tonight?
Congress, how he says the hackers got into the system and why he paid the ransom. And the new technology from Amazon that shares your internet with your neighbors. The major privacy concerns and how to opt out.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. Vice President Harris tonight is wrapping up the last leg of her first foreign trip in office after meeting with Mexico's president on her mission to
stay there.
record surge in migrants to the U.S. The vice president focused on investments and opportunities in Mexico and Central America to discourage migration. But she has been unable to escape questions on this trip. Why she has not also traveled to the
outside.
witness the migrant crush for herself. Today, after being pressed on the issue in our exclusive interview, Vice President Harris told reporters she will go. I sat down with her last evening in Guatemala City. Tonight, Vice President Harris in Mexico, meeting with the Mexican president.
You can't say you care about the border without caring about the root causes.
The root causes of the regular migrant surge. I spoke to her last.
What an aggro motherfucker.
You have a message for would-be migrants. Don't come.
Do not come.
Do
not come.
The notion. Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in?
Well, Lester, here's the thing. I've been working on this issue for a very long time, and the kind of violence and danger that is associated with that trek, especially when we're talking about from Guatemala through Mexico to the United States, it's extremely dangerous. And the reason that I am in Guatemala is to address the reasons people leave home, flee. Knowing that the people who are here for generations, or if we know the history of Guatemala for centuries,
I don't need these.
they want to stay. They don't want to
I
leave.
fucked up because I don't need a bunch of this shit.
Opportunity. They need assistance. They need support.
But Americans don't see
there's no three spots.
Americans don't see a lot of it on a daily basis. What they do see at their own border, children being lowered over fences, children coming in with phone numbers stenciled on their hand. And so the question has come up, and you heard it here, and you'll hear it again, I'm sure. It's why not visit the border? Why not see what Americans are seeing in this crisis?
Well, we are going to the border. We have to deal with what's happening at the border. There's no question about that. That's not a debatable point. But we have to understand that there's a reason people are arriving at our border, and ask what is that reason, and then identify the problem so we can fix it.
What do you tell a Guatemalan family who heard you come, but you know they're facing the end? There's poverty, there's disease, all these things happening at once.
So
don't come.
we're gonna check
Listen, I don't think that
on the side here
to be exposed
to see if there's smoke.
they're taking the trek from the place that they know that they want to stay. So I'm here in Guatemala to say, what can we do to support?
If there's smoke, we can't see it from the resort.
The administration looking to invest billions of dollars in aid to this region to help reduce that migrant surge. In April, nearly 180,000 migrants were apprehended by U.S. Border Patrol, the highest number in 20 years. And more unaccompanied migrant children come from Guatemala than anywhere else.
Over 16,000 unaccompanied children tonight in custody. What's the victory look like in this? What does improvement look like?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I would suggest to you that we have seen progress already. When we have 12 of the biggest corporations of America who have convened in my office and they have agreed to help us work on this issue. Success so far is the bringing together of community-based organizations, not only in the United States, but here in Guatemala. Today, that was one of my meetings with civil society leaders, to let them know we see them and we understand their concerns about corruption, and we also understand their role of leadership to help us in terms of how we prioritize our work in this region.
So how quickly does this change what we see at the border?
I don't know that we're going to see it. Listen, I've been very clear from the beginning. There's not going to be a quick fix. We've seen progress. But the real work is going to take time to manifest itself. Will it be worth it?
I'm gonna find a blue key card every 10 raid.
One of the topics
I think SJ6 totally expressed themselves.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
No.
You know, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
Well, I mentioned it because I know Republicans have certainly come at you on this, but Democratic Congressman Cuellar,
you guys want to see it, I bet.
Said, you and the president come. You need to see this.
Listen, I care about what's happening at the border. I'm in Guatemala because
I don't
my
know if I can do
focus is
this.
dealing with the root causes of migration. There may be some who think that is not important, but it is my firm belief that if we care about what's happening at the border, we better care about the root causes.
Do I have a CMS?
And so that's what I'm doing.
I do.
It's not the only tough issue President Biden has handed his vice president. Also recently asking her to oversee the effort to pass the Democrats' new voting bill. But a blow this weekend when a key Democratic senator, Joe Manchin, said he would not support what he called partisan voting legislation.
So where does that leave the effort?
Well, we're very clear. We believe that the PEOPLE Act needs to be passed, as does the John Lewis.
That's him.
How do you pass this legislation without that critical support?
Well, listen, we are focusing
They're pushing me.
on the issue in a number of ways. There's certainly there's a piece that is about uplifting the issues. By the way,
I'm dead. Guys, it was good serving you.
Partisanship, bipartisanship. This should be nonpartisan, not even bipartisan.
They're coming here, really?
That are going to impede people to vote based on early voting, voting by mail, shortening the hours.
I want to see it.
Eliminating or reducing the number of
I don't wanna see it.
boxes that are available. That's going to hurt every voter.
Taking it back. He's running on the woods. He's still inside. This is rough. stupidest thing I've ever done. I'm using all my resources. Totally doing this. Look what you did. You made me use my resource. Now I'm coming for your ass.
Коллеги, я на процедуре!
No, 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 no. I was out of bullets. Couldn't check my bullet count, man. It's the only mistake, right? Oh my god. You just forget to do one thing, man. Senator himself fucking showed me the way, dude. Oh, I had him. Of course I had him. Terrible mistake that I've done again.
A lot on her plate. As you heard a few moments ago, the vice president is facing some criticism for not visiting the southern border, where on the Mexican side tonight there is a massive number of migrants hoping to get into the U.S. Our Gabe Gutierrez is there.
In Reynosa, Mexico, this tent camp is feet from the U.S. border, but worlds away.
Cuando yo llegué a migración,
This morning, this woman from Honduras and her 2 children were sent back here after crossing the Rio Grande. She says her family paid smugglers $11,000.
yo no puedo regresar a mi familia porque me mataron un hermano. Le digo, ¿y mi papá?
Many of the hundreds of migrants here have been returned to Mexico because of COVID protocols put in place by the Trump administration.
2 weeks ago, there were 6 kidnappings in one night. So in kidnapping, they come onto the plaza. You hear the person screaming for help.
Wow.
Everyone stands around and watches. No one wants to die. People have their own children.
Felicia Renhel Sampanaro started the Sidewalk School, a group that now teaches migrant kids here.
You gave up your life savings to do this. Why?
This is wrong. And no one should be okay with this.
She and the colleague conduct pre-interviews, gathering information from potential asylum seekers.
Just minutes after they arrive, a crowd gathers, begging to be referred to immigration lawyers. There's an overwhelming sense of desperation here.
That desperation extends to a nearby shelter, which is at capacity. We speak with some of the children here with their parents' permission.
¿Cuántos de ustedes quieren cruzar a los Estados Unidos?
7-year-old Odalis has tried to cross into the U.S. twice with her mother.
Si no me venía de El Salvador, iban a matar a
mi mamá y me iban a matar a mí.
Alicia is from Honduras.
¿Tú tienes miedo a cruzar el río?
Sí, me caí el agua.
Her 9-year-old brother is now in the U.S. because he crossed by himself. Unaccompanied minors are allowed to stay. Now, many parents here are considering whether to separate and send their kids over alone.
Gabe, that camp is fairly new. My understanding it sprung up after President Biden took office.
Yes, Lester, this is different from the one we visited before in Matamoros. There's also one in Tijuana. Tonight, hundreds of migrants here are desperate for help, Lester.
All right, Gabe, thank you. In just 60 seconds, a scathing new report about security failures leading up to the deadly U.S. Capitol riot. We turn now to a scathing new report revealing there were warnings of potential violence at the Capitol weeks before the January 6th attack. But law enforcement failed to act. Garrett Hake has details.
Tonight, a damning new Senate report blames widespread intelligence and security failures and an ill-prepared police force for the January 6th attack. The report finds that despite online calls for violence, neither the DHS nor the FBI ever issued a threat assessment. The Capitol Police's own intel unit was aware of threats of violence, but failed to adequately communicate them.
We need some reinforcements up here now.
Officers left to defend the complex without riot gear or clear orders. One saying a lieutenant repeatedly asked over the radio, "Does anybody have a plan?" Sergeant Aquilino Gonell just returned to active duty after recovering from injuries sustained that day.
The crowd, they wouldn't listen to anything the police was saying at all. And they continue to say, we are here because our President Trump sent us here.
Mr. Trump's role in the attack was not examined in the report, reigniting the debate over a bipartisan commission to investigate further.
The joint report has strengthened the argument for an independent commission.
Today's report is one of the many reasons I'm confident in the ability of existing investigations to uncover all actionable facts.
Tonight, Capitol Police say known intelligence did not point to a large-scale attack on January 6th. DHS says they're still reviewing the report. Lester?
Garrett Hake, thanks. Authorities in this country and Australia were able to break into an app used by criminals, and the result was a massive worldwide crackdown on suspected organized crime. Here's Erin McLaughlin.
Tonight, a global crackdown on organized crime. 800 criminals across 16 countries under arrest. More than 30 tons of drugs and nearly $50 million worth of currency seized. The operation made possible thanks to encrypted devices the criminals thought they could trust, but had actually been developed and were being controlled by the FBI with the help of the Australian Federal Police.
In reality, the criminals were not underneath the radar. They were on it.
The system is called Anam. The FBI made 12,000 available on the black market, advertising them as secure encrypted devices. Criminals use the devices to message each other, all the while unknowingly sending carbon copies of their messages to law enforcement. Authorities say criminals use the platform to communicate about everything from trafficking drugs and weapons, even contract killings.
We were able to actually see photographs of hundreds of tons of cocaine that were concealed in shipments of fruit.
Tonight, law enforcement's message to criminals around the world: be warned. You could fall into the next trap. Erin McLaughlin, NBC News.
Now imagine you're the CEO of a major fuel pipeline and you've been hit by hackers demanding millions. Well, while most of the money has now been recovered, the head of the Colonial Pipeline described how easy it was for hackers to get in. Here's Pete Williams.
In his first public comment about the attack, Colonial CEO says the company learned it was hit just before 5 a.m. May 7th and shut down the pipeline within 15 minutes. The next day, he decided to pay the hackers in Russia the $4.4 million they demanded.
It was the hardest decision I've made in my 39 years in the energy industry, and I know how critical our pipeline is to the country, and I put the interests of the country first.
The hackers got in through a simple password sign-in program that allowed employees to work remotely, one that did not require two-factor authentication.
This brings a whole new meaning to the phrase, you're only as strong as your weakest link.
But the CEO says paying the ransom was the best way to get the pipeline flowing.
Absolute right decision to make, and
Who doesn't get
under the same circumstances.
It took 5 days to get the pipeline going, but the run on gas stations lasted even longer. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
A potent new COVID strain surging in the UK prompted a new warning by Dr. Fauci today that people should get vaccinated. More than 171 million have received at least one dose.
Because I'm bringing
The
keys,
pace
I feel
has
like
slowed.
dropping my serve
Here's
a
Miguel
lot.
Almaguer.
I would have a smaller serve, and I'm not using it that much. If I would have a smaller serve, I could fit in the rig.
Of July goal, now more likely to
Does fit in the
partially
bag, though.
inoculate 67, not
Most of the
70% of all adults. And now the Delta variant, first identified in India,
Just a
is
thought.
exploding across the UK and could threaten the young here at home.
We cannot let that happen in the United States.
The White House says these are critical weeks, pushing to inject new enthusiasm into vaccinations.
Think of this when you think of vaccination.
With states hungry to boost numbers, burgers and beers are being offered to holdouts. The Golden State turning to green, offering cash payouts to the vaccinated.
Number 25.
In West Virginia, they're giving away trucks and guns. Washington State
Trucks and guns.
dispensaries offering joints for jabs, legal marijuana to inoculated adults. The former Surgeon General tweeting, "Donuts, gambling, are cigarettes next?" Still, incentives have worked, though they may no longer be providing the same shot in the arm. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
Up next tonight, your internet connection being shared and how to stop it. In the price you pay tonight, Amazon's new technology that shares your internet with your neighbors. But what if you don't want to? Here's Vicki Wynn.
Today, millions of Amazon devices now have Sidewalk, a feature that extends internet access between neighbors with Echo speakers, Ring security cameras, and Tile devices. How does Sidewalk work?
Sidewalk allows your devices to connect to either your Wi-Fi network or your neighbor's Wi-Fi network to improve the quality of smart home devices all throughout the neighborhood.
The more people, the stronger
one
the
is it?
network,
Clash?
which allows smart devices to reach more places and things that didn't connect before.
The more connected we are, the more potential for vulnerabilities to be exploited by bad actors.
In a statement, Amazon said Sidewalk is a secure, shared network designed with multiple layers of privacy and security, and customers can disable the settings at any time. If you have an Echo speaker and you want to turn off the Sidewalk feature, it takes a few steps. First, open your Amazon Alexa app, tap on More, go to Settings, then Account Settings, Amazon Sidewalk, scroll down and tap here until it says disabled. For the Ring camera, open your Ring app, go to the Control Center, Amazon Sidewalk, disable and confirm. Steps you can take if you're not ready to go down this sidewalk. Vicki Nguyen, NBC News.
The cicada swarm that only emerges every 17 years is hitting its peak, and Hallie Jackson reports some are getting pretty creative with these temporary invaders.
The giant swarm spotted by meteorologists.
This is likely cicadas that the radar beam is picking up.
And at the Capitol, one making its way onto a reporter's jacket.
Oh my God.
No.
This car crashed after a cicada flew through the window into the driver's face in Cincinnati. But the current cicada epicenter is around D.C. And like a lot of things in this town,
or not?
it's divisive.
I think they're gross.
You can find them on sidewalks,
They can be big,
on
yeah.
earrings, even on the menu.
On the menu.
Chef Sang Loongroth has been planning dishes like cicada scampi for well over a year.
For me, it's more exciting than like, you know, creepy or scary. For me, it's like, oh my God, it's going to be my next meal.
Yeah.
Cicadas edible and audible. They'll be gone soon, the next generation hatching in
just gonna
2038.
write.
But for now, you could say they're all the
Cicada.
buzz. Hallie Jackson, NBC
Bite.
News, Washington.
There's that sound. Up next, one
cicada
man's
bites or
mission
sting.
still inspiring America. Finally tonight, the search for justice for a man who
Technically,
inspired
cicadas
so
don't
many
bite or
young
sting.
people
They do over
to fight
pierce
to keep his
and
dream
suck.
alive.
They might try to pierce and suck you,
For the
but don't
kids
worry,
at
they aren't
Ultimate
vampires.
Flat Dance Studio,
They're not malicious or
music
angry, they're just
keeps them
ignorant and
going.
think you're a tree.
Even in
Just
the
remove the
face of
cicada
tragedy.
from your person and go about your business.
Last month, Ultimate Threats founder Verndell
Point
Smith
heats,
was fatally shot
egg
just
laying
blocks from the
parts,
studio he
and
started
other sharp
over a
parts that
decade
might
ago
feel like a bite.
to keep kids off the street and away
They don't have a
from
jaw.
guns, leaving his family and community grieving but with new purpose.
I realized that he was a father figure to a lot of people.
Cicadas don't have stingers.
He was a mentor. I feel like it's my duty to continue his legacy by keeping the studio open.
Hundreds of miles away,
They drink
his cousin
tree
felt
fluid.
that same duty.
I literally woke up that morning and I was like, we've got to save the studio. I will stop everything and let's.
They don't want to drink your blood.
With thousands of dollars to raise, the students are
Don't hold cicadas in a closed fist.
Taking
You can hurt the cicada. They might even try to drink from your hand meat.
Want us to succeed, still succeed with his legacy, keep everything going. We have to keep everything strong. We have to stay strong. We know that he's, watching us from the outside. We still feel his spirit here.
His spirit guiding them forward. One move.
The cicada thinks his thumb is a tree.
And that's nightly news for this Tuesday. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other.
Trying to suck it. Doesn't seem to sting him.
NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
Hey everyone, I'm Allison Morris. You're watching NBC News Now. Here's what's happening.
Democracy doesn't happen by accident.
They're like June bugs. People hate them, but they don't bite or sting. They're attracted to light, trying to mate.
We have to defend it. We have to strengthen it, renew it. And I know that the American people are up to this job.
President Biden talking to U.S. Air Force members and their families in the UK today. What else he's doing on his first foreign trip.
Don't know. The White House changed. They moved the goalposts on us more than a few times. I've said that publicly for several weeks now. And I don't know where they get to the quick on this. I think that's the big
Last run for tonight.
Now that infrastructure talks with Republicans have collapsed, can President Biden find common ground with a group of bipartisan senators? And they're working on the border wall, but this has nothing to do with immigration. An exclusive look at the fight to keep out water at the southern border.
We're no longer building additional wall structure in the current administration. Our focus is repair and remediation of the levee system.
We start tonight with the president in the UK. NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli is in St. Ives. Mike, the president's first act of business, meeting with U.S. Air Force personnel and their families stationed.
Pretty good helmet, 200,000. Not enough for me to change my route and key cards.
This is going to be a trip on which the president meets with a number of heads of government, heads of state, of course, Vladimir Putin at the end. But this was his first order of business, the commander-in-chief.
Also, I think this is the lesser one. The tan one, I think, is lesser.
A funny moment. They were all still standing at attention as he had begun his remarks. And he said, "Oh, wait, at ease." He said, "Sometimes I forget I'm president." So he's still getting used to this on his first trip abroad as well. We heard from the First Lady talking about the importance of the sacrifice that not just the members of the armed services make, but also their families. And then the president gave a little bit of a sort of a preview of what his agenda is on this trip. Take a listen.
The United States is back, and democracies of the world are standing together to tackle the toughest challenges and the issues that matter most to our future. Our unrivaled network of alliances and partnerships.
Turned the stream on today, and I did get a blue key card, I think. Just like WoW.
In the world, and have been. They've made the world safer for all of us. And they are how we are going to meet the challenges of today, which are changing rapidly.
So the president there, Allison, hitting on some of the big themes of this trip, but there was also a very personal moment as he addressed the members of the Air Force, the Army as well.
Coming in from the side here.
He missed having his son, his own major, as he called him, Bo Biden, in attendance there as well. Of course, he lost his son 6 years ago. When he addressed his troops, he did it as vice president on all the times I traveled with him then, and he's doing it again now. Can't help but bring back the memory of his son as well, Allison.
I'm confused as fuck, Scav.
Mike, we know the G7 starts on Friday. What else is the president getting into while he's across the pond? I know he has quite an ambitious agenda for his first.
He was like, "Oh, I gotta go this way. Oh, there's a guy. I'm gonna go in this way. Oh, he sees me.
It's all about that one-on-one.
I think I'm gonna go this way."
Relationship, a meeting with Boris Johnson, the United Kingdom's Prime Minister. They're going to be talking about a number of important issues in that bilateral relationship. This is an important meeting for Johnson, especially as the UK is dealing with a post-reality in which they don't quite have the same influence that they did as they were part of Europe. And so they're going to be looking for some commitments to reinforce that special relationship with the U.S. But from there, the president will come here to Cornwall, to St. Ives, for that G7 summit. A very full agenda there, a number of issues from climate, the pandemic. There's going to be a lot of buildup, though, to that meeting in Brussels when he'll have both the EU-US summit and a meeting with NATO leaders, and then on to Geneva. That's really the highlight.
I'm not sure this is the route I want to take.
Face-to-face meeting for the first time.
Opening the bottom.
President Biden and President Putin.
Pressing.
Mike, today the administration said that it's sending 500 million COVID vaccine doses overseas. What else can you tell us there?
Yeah, the White House saying this deal came together over the last 4 weeks. Jeff Zients, who's the White House.
Maybe not. Maybe I want to do red key card.
We're working on this. The United States is going to be providing 300 million doses of vaccines for initially this year, another 200 million next year. They will all go to COVAX, which is that World Health Organization consortium, primarily to more than 90, especially low-income countries. The president has talked so much about the domestic policy as foreign policy. He's coming into this summit with the U.S. vaccination program, one of the real success stories of his administration so far.
Not key cards, they're LEDX, by the way.
Western allies to up the ante as well. Remember, it was just a few weeks ago, Allison, we were talking about the U.S. commitment of only 25 million doses. Now we're talking about 500 million. So a very big statement that the president's going to be making here tomorrow, and he wants our allies to pony up as well.
No, I'm throwing shit everywhere. Great. What is this?
Mike, it is late overseas, I know, but we could still hear the seagulls behind you. Proof that you are near the shore. At least that's what it sounded like. Great to talk to you while you're overseas. Thanks so much for being with us. One road shut, another.
It sounds like that girl who played with XQC.
Potential deal with a bipartisan group of senators.
There's no way she's playing
NBC News
TRP.
national political reporter Sahil Kapoor joining me now. Sahil, the president's overseas, but these infrastructure talks are still happening.
It does, doesn't it?
Tell us about this bipartisan group stepping in now that the negotiations with Senator Capito are over. I got to be honest with you, it's getting real confusing about who's coming up with what plan, who's negotiating with who. Tell us what's going on.
You're not the only one who's confused, Allison. Our team on Capitol Hill has been trying to figure this one out. And here's what happened. Biden was negotiating. The president was negotiating directly with Shelley Moore Capito, who was a Republican point person, pretty much on behalf of Mitch McConnell and the leadership team, trying to come up with a deal. They could not reach a deal. Now what's happening is a group of senators that include members of both sides of the aisle. You see them on the screen.
Doing this right now.
Are talking to each other, trying to come up with an agreement. This is the White House saying, okay, I couldn't come up with a deal with Republicans. You guys try. And if you can't, then that's where they go to Plan C. This is currently Plan B. Plan C would be Democrats move a budget vehicle that would allow something to pass the Senate on a majority vote basis, much like they did with COVID relief. But it's not clear what exactly this group is going to come up with or how they're going to be able to resolve these clearly irresolvable differences on pay-fors and taxes and even the definition of the word infrastructure. But they are continuing to have these conversations. They're going to give it one more shot.
All right, so let me just make sure I'm 100% clear here, right? They're talking to this bipartisan group. Now, what happened to the problem solvers? Are they still talking to those guys? Is there overlap here? Just want to make sure I understand exactly who this is.
These groups are largely talking amongst themselves, Allison.
I feel like I want to do red.
In the House, the group that we just showed on screen, those are in the Senate. The problem solvers, that includes 29 Republican members of the House, 29 Democratic members of the House, and they came to a general consensus on $760 billion in new spending on physical infrastructure. Now, that is more than what the Capito group in the Senate, the Republican group, had proposed. It is also much less than what President Biden
that's a good bag.
So it's almost like a whack-a-mole situation where there are a bunch of different groups talking, there are a bunch of different offers floating, and the White House's answer each time has been, no, that's not enough. They want to go big, bold, transformative, and none of these bipartisan groups are giving them that.
Sahil, that was a great analogy and great way of explaining this. I think we all understand it now. The whack-a-mole, I think they got rid of the Capito group, so they've moved on. We've got a group in the House, a group in the Senate. They're all still talking and overlapping. We'll see how far this goes. Thank you so much for kind of untying that knot for us. Let's stick in the House for a second. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeting today, President Biden and Senate Dems should take a step back and ask themselves if playing patty cake with GOP senators is really worth the dismantling of people's voting rights, setting the planet on fire, allowing massive corporations and the wealthy to not pay their fair share of taxes. Let's talk more about the pressure here from progressives.
Yeah, that tweet may as well have a hot fire emoji, excuse me, at the end of it. But that captures how a lot of progressives feel. They are very agitated by this process, by the protracted negotiations. They believe that valuable time is slipping away and that they want Democrats to begin the process of going it alone. Now, interestingly, it's not just progressives who are putting on this pressure. Today, a group of senators that includes some moderates, like Senator Michael Bennet, fired a warning shot to the administration saying they will not support an infrastructure deal if it omits key investments in climate change and clean energy. They believe this is essential, and this is another irresolvable difference between Democrats and Republicans, because Republicans don't want to include investments in, electric vehicles and that sort of thing. They want to keep this to physical infrastructure, roads and bridges and public transit, that sort of thing. So that's it's not just progressives, it's moderates. Now, who are also joining the, maybe these negotiations are not worth it attitude.
Sahel, Attorney General Merrick Garland also testifying before the Senate Appropriations Committee on the Justice Department's 2022 budget, just when you thought Capitol Hill wasn't busy enough. Could you give us the highlights of that?
This is a round robin of hearings from administration officials trying to explain to Congress why Congress should approve the budget increases that the White House has asked for in a number of cases. At the Justice Department, they've asked for a 5% increase. And Garland was peppered with a number of questions, including Justice Department policy from the Trump administration, including things like seizing phone records from reporters, which is something they said they will reverse. Also, the Justice Department's decision to defend the former president, Donald Trump, while he was president, from an allegation from a woman of sexual assault. Take a listen to what Garland had to say about that.
The rule of law is what I said when I accepted the nomination for Attorney General. It is that like cases be treated alike, that there not be one rule for Democrats and another for Republicans, that there not be one rule for friends and another for foes. Now, it is not always easy to apply that rule. Sometimes it means that we have to make a decision about the law that we would never have made and that we strongly disagree with as a matter of policy. But in every case, the job of the Justice Department is to make the best judgment it can as to what the law requires.
Now, keep in mind, Garland had been a judge for years and years before this position. He recognizes that courts don't like inconsistency in the Justice Department. They don't like vast changes in policy from what the Justice Department does from one administration to the next. So that appears to be part of what's guiding Merrick Garland's thinking as an attorney general here. Allison?
All right, Sahel, very grateful for you today, in particular for explaining everything that's going on with infrastructure. I know it's changing moment by moment, so I'm sure we'll be talking about this again tomorrow. Thank you so much.
I haven't done admin.
It is
I'm going
officially
back.
named the U.S. Innovation and Competition Act, and it's heading to the House. The bill authorizes funding for science and technology, largely to compete
Especially because I haven't been,
Senator Chuck Schumer.
I haven't heard
calling
anything
out its
been challenged in any way. So.
That's one of the most major and significant pieces of legislation we've passed in a long time, which is going to have a huge effect on the future of the American economy and American jobs. It's the largest investment.
We're going to look at our route.
Research and technological innovation in generations. It sets the United States on a path to lead the world in the industries of the future.
Beijing reacting strongly today, calling this bill, quote, full of Cold War thinking. NBC
I like that door.
Dennis Mackey Frere has more reaction.
Brings me a little closer to can see better. Let's just say that.
Senate support for this bill is so resounding is a sign of how both parties agree there is a need and an urgency to address potential imbalances in U.S.-China competition. This is the most substantial government intervention in industrial policy in decades.
I would like paper.
The plan will pour nearly $250 billion into
But
research and development
not a
to
big
help
deal
put
like
the
it
U.S.
used
in a
to
better
be.
position to compete with China on things like AI, quantum computing, robotics, space exploration, to be at the leading edge of emerging technologies, and for those technologies to have what we'll call American contours. The centerpiece
Like if you look at this route
$1
for a
billion
second
in emergency funding to boost domestic semiconductor
and go this
production.
way,
There's a global shortage of chips. Also,
faster.
billions of dollars being earmarked for the Pentagon
Can't
and
see
Commerce
much.
departments. Mainly, what we're looking at is the risk of falling behind. President Biden has said there is a competition to win the 21st century, and the starting gun has already got off.
somewhat
And it's
like
not
this.
just China.
Turn around if it's green.
The main rival, and Beijing has poured substantial resources into developing industries here. Now, there's likely to be a bit of heat against this bill in the House. Already some criticism that it was rushed through, that there are things attached to it that had little or no debate, that maybe it's not tough enough on China. But this bipartisan vote shows that there is a consensus on wanting to give momentum to U.S. industries. And a lot of these concerns were heightened by the pandemic because the pandemic revealed or exposed the degree to which the U.S. is dependent on China for certain goods and supplies. So what does China say about all of this? Well, today a foreign ministry spokesperson talked about it being an exaggeration of a China threat theory. Basically, China's position is that it's up to the U.S. How to do their business, but China does not want to be used as what it called an imaginary enemy. Now, American businesses have long accused China of unfair practices. So there could be a day when the U.S. will use sanctions against people and entities if they steal U.S. trade secrets or undermine cybersecurity. That's if this bill gets passed into law.
There's a new crisis at the border over levees. The Army Corps of Engineers racing to fix massive gaps created while building Trump's border wall. Residents in the Rio Grande Valley vulnerable to dangerous flooding until they're fixed. NBC News Now correspondent Dasha Burns has an exclusive look at the rush to close those gaps before hurricane season is here.
The border wall, a hallmark of the Trump administration. Construction crews building 450 miles of wall along the 2,000 miles of southern border.
On immigration, the president's immediately halting construction on former President Trump's prized border wall.
Shortly after President Biden signed the executive order, the work ground to a screeching halt. But keeping this campaign promise on immigration has had some unintended environmental consequences.
Well, when the order was to
wide open,
the
just need to figure it out.
they just left.
The day pen to paper tools dropped, right?
They just abandoned things and the gaps were there. And we had 4 very big gaps. So obviously we were very concerned because those levees were put here for one purpose only, and that's to keep it from flooding.
Richard Cortez is the Hidalgo County judge and runs emergency management in the Rio Grande Valley, a region prone to the impacts from hurricanes and heavy rain. Levees that are critical to protecting these communities were excavated during construction of the border wall. Large gaps were cut out, leaving the community vulnerable, until Judge Cortez and other local leaders sounded the alarm.
I want to thank, of course, the judge and the county commissioner for bringing this to the attention of the officials, that this was important to put this back again.
3 months after President Biden halted border wall construction and after a buildup of local pressure, DHS announced they would fix the extensive problems created by border construction, calling out the Trump administration for blowing large holes in the levees and calling on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, who were initially charged with building the wall, to now rebuild the levee instead.
So those 3 gaps, we've finished 2 of the 3 already. This is the third and was the most sizable. Chimney Park. It was about 1,700 feet when we started.
1,700 feet.
Yep.
That's a big gap.
It is. And right now, partnered with our construction firms that's delivering, we're down to less than 600 feet left to fill.
We got an exclusive interview
US
with
Army
Brigadier
Corps of
General
Engineers.
Christopher Beck, who's overseeing the project. Prior to the Biden administration,
Just send the army in.
what was the plan? What would this have looked like?
So on top of the levee
previous
system, we put a
administration's
bollard wall system, basically some steel members that range in height from 18 to 30 feet. As that was paused and we're no longer building additional wall structure in the current administration.
There's the politics of the wall and immigration, right? But then there's also the practical implications of the policy change that affects what you all do.
So our focus is being the agency that executes the direction.
Those in the local community say the shift in gears between administrations put them at risk.
We have 2 dams. Well, if those dams get up to capacity, they have to release water. So the combination of water being released by our dams, the water coming from the sky, we've had that before. That's no fun. That's serious.
Judge Cortez says 250,000 people were under threat.
We're going to keep some parts.
So construction crews have been
CMS
racing
splint.
against Mother Nature's clock to complete the work. There
That's
is
cool.
still some
Leaves
urgency
a hole.
to what you guys are doing to make sure you just get it done as quickly as
I'll
possible.
put these away for a second. Just go with CMS.
Remains to get all of this
Let's just do
remediated.
This site shows all 3 phases of construction. The empty space that was once a levee
Pretty cool. I have a lot of
filled with
proposals to sell.
concrete
That's cool.
foundation, followed by a concrete stem.
This vertical portion, that protects against a lot of the flood loading.
And finally, backfilling the concrete with earth.
This is the structural integrity we're looking for.
And while it may look like a wall, it's a far cry from what would have been built here. Now, you are, in essence, constructing a wall. It's just not the kind of wall that people think about when they think about the border.
We are not building additional border wall.
The wall is for water, not for people.
That's correct. That's correct.
This site now serving as a visual representation of the race to bridge the gap between 2 opposing administrations. General Beck says the most urgent work here will be complete by the end of the month, and that they're already in good shape to make sure people are protected in case of a storm. What does it say about this administration's approach to issues at the border, especially with local communities like yours, that it took so long to fix what seemed like a pretty massive problem?
Well, not to be critical, I'm a little disappointed. I know that everybody's kind of new in the job and everybody's learning, and I hope they're going to get better. But no, it was disappointing that it took this long to take the action that everybody knew was the action that ultimately had to be taken.
Let's go to NBC News Now. Correspondent Simone Boyce. She has the latest headlines from NBCnews.com. Simone, wonderful to see you again.
Hey, Allison, you as well. We're going to start in the European Union, where lawmakers are endorsing this new travel pass that would allow people to move between European countries without quarantines or tests. So the
Looking at Bolt real quick.
will
Not seeing anything. We
confirm a
can't sort
person
it.
is fully vaccinated, recently tested negative, or recovered
We are
from
keeping 3
COVID.
bolts anyway.
Travelers from outside the EU could get one if they can convince authorities that they qualify. All right, a Moscow court outlawing organizations founded by Alexei Navalny. The ruling, which is effective immediately, labels the opposition groups as extremists. So this means people associated with them can't run for office. And many of Navalny's allies were hoping to run in Russia's elections this fall. Now, the label also carries with it hefty prison sentences for anyone involved
People don't need these as much.
in any capacity. And a Pennsylvania man arrested for allegedly impersonating former President Trump's family members to steal thousands of dollars from supporters. 22-year-old Joshua Hall allegedly created these fake social media accounts of Trump family members to raise money for a non-existent pro-Trump re-election organization. Now, Hall couldn't be reached for comment. And unfortunately, your Chipotle burrito just got about 4% more expensive. But here's why. The Mexican food chain is hiking prices to cover the cost of raising wages.
No.
Restaurants like Chipotle, Starbucks, and McDonald's raised wages to attract new workers and retain current ones. And now, at least Chipotle is passing that cost on to the customer. And El Salvador will be the first country in the world to accept Bitcoin as legal tender. Now, under the new law, firms must accept Bitcoin as payment for goods and services. Citizens can also pay their taxes with Bitcoin. Now, this change will take effect in 90 days. And finally, around 1 in 5 Gen Z young adults do not identify as straight, according to a recent Ipsos survey. That's double the overall population, where around 9% of respondents identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual, omnisexual, or asexual. Allison, that'll do it for me today. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Simone, thanks so much. Have a great night.
We'll give her a few of these.
That's how many adults in Alabama are fully vaccinated against COVID-19, according to the CDC. It puts the state second to last in the U.S. So why are the numbers there so
Take a bunch of stems.
NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber traveled to Phoenix City,
25,
Alabama, to find out.
On market, morphine can go there.
In parts of the country, moments like this are becoming harder and harder to find.
Have you been vaccinated against COVID-19?
No, ma'am.
How come?
Because I don't want to.
In Russell County, Alabama, less than 15% of residents are fully vaccinated. It is the least.
I don't believe in that, ma'am.
Least vaccinated states.
What? Just good at the action.
I haven't taken the vaccine.
But eventually we all gonna have to get vaccinated, but I'm cool right now.
The county's health department declined our request for an interview on their COVID-19 vaccination efforts, but said they suspect that a number of Russell County residents have gone to Georgia, which adjoins Russell County, for vaccines, as that is a hub for the county's medical care. And they say those are numbers they do not have. But those on the ground say even that may be slowing down. Maggie Okeke is a pharmacist in Columbus, Georgia, barely 3 miles from Russell's county seat, Phoenix City.
Recently, I haven't seen anybody from Alabama.
In Phoenix City, the reasons people gave us for not getting vaccinated varied.
I just feel like
I can't stand anyone from Alabama.
So worried about what's going on in the world, but not too much focus on God, and that's what's the problem is.
I don't trust.
What the fuck are you
sorry,
saying?
but I just don't.
I don't know. I'm kind of like a conspiracy theorist. You know, I be thinking about stuff like that. But,
Those who have rolled up their sleeves say
me
they're
someone
not
else.
surprised to see so much hesitancy in the place they call home.
33,000.
It was a struggle.
30,000.
No.
No less.
It was like, we really don't even know what this is. After it being around for a while, it's like, it becomes common sense.
Some people are really and truly opposed to it. I don't know really why, because then some people feel they're conspiracy people, that it's, the Chinese trying to take over.
One of the state's top health officials says vaccines are readily available to anyone.
Even the man of God knows better.
At this point, she believes the problem is misinformation.
We do believe there still remains to be hesitancy as a result of persons having misinformation, really not listening to the information that has been provided and is being provided by medical professionals. COVID will find a place. So we absolutely need to get our rates much higher.
President Joe Biden wants to see 70% of American adults with one shot by July 4th. Dr. Karen Lander says as much as she wishes it would happen,
This is absolute
there
trash,
is
isn't
no
it?
way that happens in
Diaries,
Alabama.
20,000, 25,
Is
set it to
only
30,
at 46%.
We will not get to 70%. And I think we have to realistically look at bumping our numbers up in increments.
Antonio Lyles got vaccinated in late April after his mother, Catherine Ann Brundage, died because of COVID-19.
When did you get vaccinated?
This is what really is going on.
She passed the 21st. I got an appointment the 22nd. Got vaccinated the 23rd.
Would you have gotten vaccinated if?
I don't know. But I know that definitely pushed me towards getting the vaccination.
When she got sick, she was about to get vaccinated, right?
Yes.
How soon was that?
She got sick that Thursday. She had an appointment that following Tuesday.
Catherine owned this restaurant. She and the food she made were loved.
She was a real family person, real family oriented. And she just loved people. That's what made it so good here.
It's a good idea that they show
He told us vaccines
a man from this
are
community.
a personal choice, but one worth considering. And to those who still question the existence of the virus,
Difficulties of COVID.
It's real. It can be fatal.
You're gonna tell me this man isn't real?
Delta variant
Get
of the
real,
coronavirus.
Chad,
That's the
you
variant
know?
first detected in
Don't
India.
say
Could
that.
be creating new
I don't
problems
believe
for the
you.
U.S. Health officials saying that we need to get people and
I refuse to
kids
believe you're that
vaccinated
stupid.
before Delta becomes the dominant variant in the U.S. Here's NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk.
I refuse.
Allison, Moderna and Pfizer say they are in the final stages of testing their vaccine on children 5 and older. As
We
early
need 2
as
of
this
these.
fall, the
Make
FDA could have the data. That's around the time that classrooms open up, with parents eager for a normal school year.
If the final vaccine trials go well, it won't be long before every American, even the smallest among us, will be eligible for the shot. Drug company Pfizer announcing it has moved to
these are a little
the
high.
testing phase for children ages 5 to 11.
Just buy them.
The trial will include 4,500 participants in the U.S. and Europe. Stanford Medicine is one of 90 clinical sites. Among the factors being tested is the size of the dose.
The children sometimes require lower doses of vaccines, not just COVID vaccines, but others as well, in order to achieve the same or even better immune responses.
The vaccine approval news comes as a troubling variant, first discovered in India, is spreading rapidly around the world.
In the UK, the Delta variant is the rapidly emerging as the dominant variant. We cannot let that happen in the United States.
The Delta variant now accounts for 60% of the new cases in the UK. Experts believe it is the most infectious yet and may be associated with an increase in severity, according to the White House. It makes up more than 6% of the U.S. cases. The best defense? That vaccine.
Get vaccinated, particularly if you had your first dose. Make sure you get that second dose. And for those who have been not vaccinated yet, please get vaccinated.
Dr. Fauci announced that Washington has become the 13th state where more than 70% of adults have received one dose. And the vaccination numbers aren't the only thing getting high there. A new incentive offers joints for jabs. For a tamer treat, there's free ice cream in Seattle. With the help of
Pretty
incentives
cheap, L1, huh? What does it do again?
more accessible across
Endurance,
the country, half
strength,
of U.S. adults are now
gives
fully
you a quick
vaccinated.
boost, removes pain.
White House says, but still not
So it is a
enough to reach
painkiller, which is not what I
dose for 70%
want.
of adults by July
Increases
4th.
The
your
numbers
stamina.
across the country are looking really good. The CDC director says that case numbers have dropped 94% since the peak in January.
We have a veer tag. What do we do with it?
Disease
We use it?
physician and St. Louis Board of Health member Dr. Maddie Schlatter-Davis joins me now. Haven't seen you in a while, friend. It's wonderful to have you with us. But we got to talk about something serious, this Delta variant that Steph Gosk mentioned. It ravaged India. It's causing a lot of problems in the UK right now. We're worried about it here in the US. What sets it apart from the other strains of the coronavirus? And how does it hold up against the vaccines we have in the US? What should we be worried about here?
You remember when we first started talking about that at the end of last year, beginning of this year, it was how highly transmissible it was and how it had these immune evasion properties.
We're having fun.
Even against the best vaccines, it seemed to not have as much efficacy as we were otherwise seeing. So this is what we're seeing again, but at alarming rates in the UK and also in India.